right, let's go. We did it. Episode number 2. Most people don't even make it that far, so this is exciting. Made it to episode 2. How you feeling this morning, Derek?
I feel great. I feel energized and I'm excited. I'm grateful for another opportunity to connect with our listeners and to share some juice with you and with our listeners and put what we have out there.
Yes, yes. So today's a exciting episode, in my opinion, because right with most stuff, you want to know where do I start? Right? You got all of this stuff. There's so much that I need to focus on, so much that I need to do. Where do I start? What do I need to focus on? Right? So that's what we're going to hit on today. Super excited about that. And then we're going to, at the end, leave people with some homework, some things that they can work on, some questions that they can ask to help point people in the right direction so we can, you know, so they can and everybody can make the change that they want to see in their life. So exciting, ready to hop into this. So let's go ahead and dive in, right? So with this, right? So we've made a decision. We've made a decision. We want to change. I want to make a change and I want to reinvent myself. I want to become a new me, right? So now, where do I start? What do I need to focus on? So if you were to tell somebody, Derek, hey, this is where you should start, what would you tell them to focus on first?
For me, I think the first thing we need to do is identify why. So I think for me, it was taking inventory of so good that we want to change, but then I think you need to answer multiple questions, but I think you really need to, I think you really need to dig in deep and take some time, like take time to save time, like identify why you're wanting to change. So, um, in a conversation, it's rather easy to do, and I think for at least for me, getting by myself and writing down, almost like a character in a movie, and you're defining who you are or who you've been, and then it makes it more, it's illustrating it on paper, and then I just went down that list of because I love myself. The good things that I've done and the things I'm proud of, as well as the things I'm not proud of, like, I'm not really judging myself. I know I was there. So it was as opposed to a conversation where it's hard because you may feel no matter how much trust you have, no matter how much relational equity you have, whether it be with a brother, like a sibling, a parent, a coworker, just someone you really trust, human nature, we're feeling a little bit of uncomfortable energy of what is this person gonna think? Well, for me, taking that time to sit by myself and jot and write down who I was very frictionless for me because I'm not judging myself. Again, I was there. So, wrote all that down, and then that's where I wanna start with the audience there because we need to identify who we were or who we've been. Then from there, this is where I'm gonna go into identify the problem. So, the stuff that if you're telling the truth, if you can get truthful and honest with yourself at a starting point, then you can almost take a highlighter or a red pen or something and start to highlight things you want to remove. And it could be don't try to overthink this, even if it was just a reaction to a situation or this event happened, or maybe you don't want that experience to happen again. Well, write that down because you can then put attention towards it. And something you say very often, the audience will hear it often. If you've been around us, you'll hear it often. But where your focus goes, your energy is going to flow, and then where you apply energy, you're going to have results. And so where I would start, and where I think I feel most responsible telling our audience to start. That works for all ages, that works for any situation. Most often, people have the resources of a piece of paper and a pen. They can they can feel safe by themselves, and they can write down who they were. Now, once you have that, and once you identify what you want to change, then you can start to actually, you can and to summarize that, it's you choose first, identify the problem, then you can fix the problem. And so, not to be confused, I'm not saying as people we're not problems, we just have problems, and that's never going to change. But that's where I would start. And what methods do you have? What's coming to you, or how did you start?
Yeah, no, I love that. So, and yeah, identifying the problem is step number one, right? And then why is it a problem? Well, it's probably a problem because we're not getting the results that we want, right? We're not where we thought we should be, right? And things aren't working out the way we thought they should, right? So, why is that? And then, so we got to figure that out. And then the first way to do that is by being brutally honest with ourselves. And we got to want the truth over all things, right? So, our feelings got to take a back seat. They got to take a back seat. They can't be there, right? And we got to figure out what is the truth. And then may it be so last episode, one of my things that spawned my change was a relationship, right? Well, during that, right, I had to also take stock of what was my part, right? Because I can't control that person. I can only control me, right? So what's in my control? What are my controllables? And what were the things that I could have done differently, that I could have done better? And one of the things I realized is I didn't love myself. Okay, well, good, good. Now we know, and that's the truth. Now, why? Why don't we love ourselves, right? Well, because we're not doing the things that we said we're going to do. We're not consistent. We're not showing up day in and day out. And I know the truth, right? Okay, cool. Now we know that. Now we can start from there and start taking stock of the things that we aren't doing and start figuring out why aren't we doing these things, right? Getting to the root cause of why we're not able to take action. What is hanging us up? What is the trigger? What is the block that's stopping us from doing the things that we know we should be doing? Because oftentimes, if you stopped and asked somebody what they should do, they could tell, like, not themselves, but if they were telling somebody else and they remove themselves, they can always give people the best advice. But for whatever reason, when we're giving ourselves advice, it's like we don't know what to do. It's like there's a roadblock. And what it is the ego. It's the lower self. It's the attachment. It's the feelings that are getting in the way and clouding the water or the view of what direction we should go, right? And so we just got to remove the clouds so we can see clearly of where we need to go. So that first step is taking stock. Okay. Don't love myself. All right. Good. Why don't we love ourselves? Right? Because we're not doing what we said we were going to do. Okay. Good. Why are we not doing what we said we were going to do? Right? What is that reason? What is stopping us from taking action? Well, because I don't really have my why's not strong enough. Like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I want to be this person? Right? And do I want to be seen this way? Right? And then the desire has to outweigh the pain that's going to be required in order to get where you're going. So, if the desire and the why isn't strong enough, then you're that first bout of pain, you're not going to make it, right? Because we always say, choose your pain, right? No matter what, you're going to have pain in life. And most people's problems is, and this comes from Tony Robbins, is they think they shouldn't have problems, right? Well, you're going to have problems, and problems are a good thing because without them, you can't grow. You cannot grow without problems, right? So let's be grateful for the challenge, be grateful for the problems because that's the opportunity to grow. So when you hit that first bout of challenges, that first bout of pain, right? Is your why great enough? Is it going to help get you through it, right? And so that's the other piece. So starting where you said, what are the things that I don't like about myself? What are the things that are causing me to not get where I want to go? Now that we know that, then where do I want to go? And then why do I want to go there? And then what is it going to look like? And I've mentored a lot of people, and one of the things that I tell them is, who is future you going to be?
Yeah.
Right? As Tony Robbins likes to say, I built this mother sucker, and so you got to build the person that you want to be. The person you're looking at right now, I built him. He was I was built with conscious and consistent thought. It was very thought out about what I'm going to look like, what I'm going to feel like, how I want to react to things, cuz you go through this awkward phase that nobody tells you about when you start the growth journey or you wake up to reality and what's actually going on because you don't agree with like the things that you used to agree with, you don't agree with anymore, right? The things that you used to respond to in like banter and all of this, like it's not, there's no substance there anymore. So it doesn't move you anymore. And you start just, as time goes on, seeing how shallow you were, right? And
Could you give an example of that? Like, for people like, for the listeners, if they're like, "Hold on, let's what do you mean by, banter?" Like, what are you classic could you give a real world example of the banter?
yeah, banter of just literally going back and forth on stuff that means nothing, right? Just talking about sports, talking about, hey, did you see what Drake did? Did you see just nonsense stuff that literally has no depth to it? And I call it like, and I'm not saying that you can't have those conversations. I'm not saying that if you're talking about nonsense that you're a bad person or anything like that. No, I have those conversations here and there as well. But what I actually seek out is conversations of depth, conversations where we're talking about the truth, we're getting to the truth, and we're talking about, well, why do I want to do this? Where am I going? Or what are the problems that we have? How can we solve them? Those are those are meaningful conversations. And so your time is precious, right? So your whole mindset on time changes. And so you don't want to exit in that moment. You now, because you see reality differently, you're looking at it through a different lens. It feels like in that moment, you're wasting time, right? And the old you didn't think that way. The new you does. And so you kind of only want to be around people who are trying to solve problems, move the needle forward, and that want to get to the truth of the matter. And if they don't, you don't really have time for them, right? Because you're not on the same wavelength. You're not on the same frequency anymore. So, but when you do that, you become the oddball. You're not like everybody else because everybody else would prefer to do the banter, would prefer to talk about the stuff that doesn't move the needle, and they don't want to get to the truth. They don't want to solve problems, and they want to be blissfully ignorant to a degree. And there's a lot of people that that's how they would prefer to live life. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I am saying when you wake up, it becomes lonely because you find out there's nowhere near as many people around you that are viewing life that way. And so you have to go through this awkward phase of reinventing yourself. But then you get to a point to where once you're really started becoming rooted in the future you, who you're going to become, what you start finding is you start attracting your people. They just start showing up in the weirdest ways. It just organically happens. You don't have to go looking for them. All you have to do is just focus on you. Focus on where you're going, why you want to go there, and then taking stock of where you're at, how far have you made it? Why haven't you made it to wherever your checkpoint is? And then what can you do to fix it? And then what you find is it all just becomes another one of those. It's just another one of those. It's just another one of those. And it takes the sting of life away. And then you kind of settle into the rhythm. You kind of settle in to the routine of growth, right?
Yeah.
And you expect the pain and you're good with going ahead and getting your pain out of the way. You would rather rip the Band-Aid off. You don't want to slowly like, nah, you get in the mindset of rip that Band-Aid off. Let's go. Like,
Let's just go ahead and do this.
but that's old you wasn't that way. New you is. So how is the new you going to look, feel? Like how are things going to taste? How are things going to smell? Like how are you, the new you, going to feel and move and go through life? You got to figure that out, right? And then you got to start checking in. Am I one step closer? Am I one step closer? 1% gains every single day of getting a little bit closer to that new you. And then it's not a sprint from there on out because the race don't end.
Yeah.
There is no destination. It quite literally is just all about the journey. That's where the joyfully grateful comes in because you're going to settle in to the journey and settle into the moment and be grateful for all of the things because it's not just good things that we're grateful for, like we said last week, it's also the bad, quote unquote bad. And
Yeah.
so it changes your whole perspective on life. It changes how you're viewing things, but it also puts you in a weird, awkward beginning phase where you don't feel like you necessarily fit in yet, and you have to, and everybody goes through that, and you just have to make it through, and you just keep chopping wood every day, and I promise you, it gets a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But the other way is not loving yourself, immense pain, uncontrollable pain, because like that you didn't choose, that you don't have control over, right? And depression and staying in the lower energies.
Yeah.
I don't
That
that doesn't sound any like fun to me.
I think at the beginning too, um, um, one of the loops, one of the merry-go-rounds, or one of the, uh, vicious cycles I was on is I wanted it to be quick. Like, I did not listen to this exactly, so I would consume content of, this, say, high motivation, high energy, you're gonna lose sleep, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose everything, and it's just gonna be you bare naked in a field, and you're gonna have to rebuild yourself. And then I really like that had a lot of like high emotion, high energy that was super fleeting, or that felt like it would get you on a quick sprint. And you run to the gym, or you run out, or you get on and you buy all this stuff, that all this health stuff. But that was something that I wanna relate to the listeners on, is that, immediately, like, I was interested in growth, and I was interested, and I saw I saw a future version of myself that I really wanted to build, but I didn't necessarily have the things that I was consuming, and the people around me, um it that comparison part, where it was like they picked a day and they started, but they really didn't provide application. Like, so day 1's exciting. What about day 2 through 100? Because that's where I think where the real juice is. Like, once you get some momentum, not motivation, um, you kinda start to walk your own path, and forge your own path in a way. But that day 1 to 100 is a gauntlet, and most people don't make it out the other side. And I think that's something that I look forward to us actually helping people through that day 1 to 100, because, you know, that is where a lot of the tricks come in, and a lot of the distractions really get stronger, is when you're trying to change, and when you're just starting out, you don't believe in yourself yet, and it is much harder to say no. Like, you don't have the confidence to say no to things that you used to say yes to. Um, and that is something. How could you explain to would you explain to the listeners if you could, kind of that snapshot of that day 1 to 100, and share a little bit about, if I could go back and do it again, I would be really consistent with a daily list. That's something I wish I could go back to, 24, 25-year-old me, and say, "Hey, all this other noise, cut it off. It's just you and a piece of paper every day." You know, that would be what chopping wood would mean to me. And I think it would have helped me. But could you share some tools that like, not necessarily hacks, but some true real world applications that maybe you used, struggled to use, and then once you really, stuck to a thing, like, say, a daily list of who am I and who do I wanna be, and then highlight, that's mine. But is there any tools you used, or any things that you used to keep yourself on track to build that momentum?
Yeah, so we're saying we've already executed on taking stock of who we've been and how we've got here. We've put all the things that we've learned or thought back on the shelf, and everything's getting analyzed again, right? And we're putting it all back through filters. So we've executed that whole piece. We know what our who, what, when, where, and why is of where we're going, and we've done all of that. Because if you haven't done that part, then you can't make it to day 100. Because that part is very, very critical. That's even critical when you're trying to lead other people, right? Is knowing their who, what, when, where, and why. The reason why you need that is because when the hard moments come or the days where they feel like everything's falling apart, you'll be able to remind them of what they said and then ask, "Is this still true?" Right? And so that is paramount. And then the key trick, like or trick or hack or whatever you want to call it, in my opinion, because like I said, it's not a destination, it's a journey. So you just got to stay on the path. So even if you fell off the road and you're in the woods, as long as you get back up and get back on the path, you're good. So with that, I think one of the most critical things that you can do and that I would recommend that you do not you can deviate on anything else, but do not deviate on this, is doing a daily reflection.
Mm.
And
Yep.
worst case scenario, if you forget to do it daily, because you do get distracted, like you said, because that's a whole thing in itself, distraction. Um, just the dichotomy of distraction and focus. But if that does happen, worst case scenario, you at least get your weekly reflection in, right? What do I mean by that? Reflection. Well, how did I do today? Right? Well, what do you mean? How did I do today based off what? Right? Well, that's up to you. You have to like what were the things that you were trying to do? Well, how did you start your day off first and foremost? Because if you listen to anybody who has done anything remarkable or great or extraordinary or whatever, plug in athlete, plug in entrepreneur, whatever, they all have one thing in common. They have a very strong morning routine. Okay. Step number one. Do you have a strong morning routine? If you don't, you need to develop one. And then did you stick to it? How well did you execute it? Right? Because step one is just making sure you're checking the boxes. And then step two is increasing the intensity and the level and the degree of which you're checking those boxes, right? So in the beginning, you're just like a 2 out of 10. Okay.
Right.
3 weeks from now, I better be at least a 3 out of 10. And I just need to keep improving. Maybe for another 3 weeks from now, I'm a 3.7 out of 10. I improved, right? It's the journey, right? So, but the big thing is checking back in. How did I do? And then where most people fail or get hung up is they can't figure out the balance between being hard on yourself and not being hard enough.
True.
They struggle with it.
Yeah, that was very difficult for me because I would get, and that was and is still, I would say, probably the most difficult part of this journey for me individually is like the balance and the discernment between we're towing the line of being too hard on ourselves, but then we're also towing the line of giving ourselves excuses, like cheap excuses, like because of this is acceptable to these people, but um and even to myself, I'm like, well, if because I did this and this and this, I should be able to do this. And that's a like that is not easy. It's not I don't think it ever goes away. If it does go away, we'll find out and we'll share with everyone. But that section of the growth journey is probably it's the one that I struggle most likely. Like for me, it's I struggle the most in because when I put some serious, when I pour the gas on, I'm not doing that again. I'm done with that behavior. Um, it works, but then I want to set the world on fire, and sometimes that spills out into the people around me, or I want if I'm changing, I want everyone to change, and I want to feel community in the pain in a way. But what I've found lately is that what's been my key to unlock that door out of feeling like I was doing a poor job at that is asking myself that question. Am I being too hard on myself, or am I giving myself excuses? Like, am I being too soft, or am I being too hard? Stopping for just a moment. You mentioned reflection, but throughout the day or at least during the daily reflection of like what, today, looking at a small time, block of time, because it's way easier to digest. I think that's why you mentioned the daily reflection and then at least weekly. Because when you start, if you don't reflect for a week or two, you're making your job harder. It's like reviewing a larger data set. You if you only have a smaller block to look at, you actually are gonna do a you're probably gonna have a more quality rep. Versus if you let the week go and then you try to reflect the whole week, it's just a lot. And I think when we're starting something out, we munch it, we take small blocks of it, and then as you improve your skill, obviously you can increase volume. But I find that people on this journey and people that uh, you know, I like to reflect multiple times a day because I'm trying to increase the quality of it, my rep of reflection. So if I wait till the end of the day, even some days we don't have time. Some days you're roaring and you don't have that moment. But if I can find little blocks of time to do hour or say break the day up into threes and uh make that time shorter, I get a more quality reflection in, which then means and I also have a shorter loop to correction. Like if I had a poor performance in the morning and then I can come back and reattack, either that conversation or that rep within a couple of hours instead of a couple of days, the results are just better. So do you have experience with are you getting reflections in during the day, or are you what share with the audience a little bit about your reflection cycle?
I am consistently reflecting. I'm reflecting in conversations as they're happening, but it's go whether it's a reflection. I just wrote down reflection increases awareness,
Mm,
right? So
say that again.
reflection increases awareness. So because the more you reflect, the more you identify, the more you're aware in the moment. Because I was sitting there and I was like, and I was hearing what you're saying. I was like, but I feel like one of the things, and I've proven this in a lot of situations that I've been in, where I am reflecting in real time as the conversation, you'll literally watch me adjust in real time in a chaotic, crazy, or somebody's coming at me or whatever. You'll see me doing it in real time. And I think the reason why I'm able to do that now is because of years of reflection, years. And then the other piece is the meditation piece. We'll get into that. Gives me the ability to actually control my emotions, calm myself down because I know where I know where the levers are in myself to calm down or catch myself, and then I'm like, are you escalating? But are you? Are you calm? But are you? So usually whatever the first answer is, I'm going to follow it back up. But are you? But is that true?
Yeah.
And then removing myself, removing my emotion and trying to see myself from a third party perspective is usually what will help me see the truth. And then it's figuring out why am I doing this, right? So it's getting really good at discernment, getting really good at having filters in which you are putting your questions and decisions through. And that's what's letting you know whether you made the right decision or not, or that it's like, I did this because this, and this gives me the highest probability of reaching this goal. If more information comes about and shows that this adjustment will get me here, and it could be that I have the right formula, I'm just not executing it yet, right?
Yeah.
And so but it's being able to hold all that in frame and then shift through it all to figure out where the truth is. Like, where are you actually at with it? And then as far as, um, being too hard on yourself, it's you need a process, right? You need a process and a standard, right? So, what is your standard? And then what is the process in which you put situations through to compare or to evaluate to see where you at in conjunction with what you said your standard is, right? So how far away are you? What is your grading scale? Just like with anything, we want to see what somebody's knowledge is or where they're at. We'll give them a test, right? And then we'll grade it, right? So we need to, as far as whether you're being too hard on yourself, well, where are you at in line with where you said you were going, right? And then are these things helping you achieve your goal? And then are you focusing on something that's outside of your control? And you have to consistently ask yourself that question a lot, because we tend to do that because the ego or the lower self, that's a trick of its, to take the focus, because the focus is what actually will get the results, off of what's actually causing the problem and put it onto something else as a deflection, right? To deviate the attention so it can continue to remain in the shadows. It does not like to be illuminated, right? The focus is the light, it is the illumination, it is what illuminates the things that go on in the shadows. So, being aware of that process, and then having your standards for yourself of like, hey, I could have done way better, right? These are the reasons why I fell short. And then giving yourself forgiveness, giving yourself grace. And then what gives yourself the forgiveness and grace is the ferocity that you're going to come back out with your next swing, your next take, your next try at whatever it is. That's what gives you the grace, right? Hey, I may have fell short here, but I'm going to come out even more aggressive, even more with even more intensity to overcome this, to address this. And that's the thing. I'm glad I just said that. And people, man, I lose people with this. And if I lose you on this one, I apologize. I'm going to do my best to try to explain this properly. And I implore you to not, if I can find some better words, I will. But so please do not get hung up on my words. And really, I'm telling you, please try to hear what I'm saying, because what I'm about to say is very important. And I don't hear enough people talking about it. It does not really get talked about. I feel like I'm the only one a lot of times talking about it, unless it's other type A people and they are misconstrued as well. And maybe none of us are doing a good job of articulating the point. So I'm going to do my best. But the point is, we do not put enough stock. We do not put enough focus, energy, or value. That's the word. We do not put enough value to intensity. We do not put enough value to coming at something aggressively or coming
Yep.
at it with
Yes.
a high degree of energy, right? And where I'm gonna push back on this is like, it needs to be done in balance. You shouldn't be coming out scorch earth energy. Nothing should be done that way. But you need to figure out how to come with a rah high energy, right? But balanced with level headed reflection, standards, and still loving people. And I think what balances, here we go. What what balances the intensity out is gratitude and grace. So maintaining gratitude and grace with high intensity. But the reason I say this is because if you're wanting to move something big, right, or you're wanting to overcome something that you've been doing that's been a hardwired program in you for 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, do you think that's going to just require a little bit of energy, right? Or if you're wanting to, do something that's going to be a nationwide brand, or you're wanting to change something at scale, you think something that large can be done with nonchalant energy?
No.
No, it's going to require a high degree of intensity, and you're going to have to show up with that intensity every single day, right? In order to move something to scale, in order to make it through this growth journey, in order to get through the pain that's going to come with this journey, you cannot go about it with a nonchalant vibe or energy. It's not going to work. Now, but you should not be out of balance. You should not be intense. You should not be scorched earth. You should not be just ripping people's heads off all the time. Like, that's not good either, right? So you got to figure out, what does that balance look like? But I often, because I do come at stuff with an intensity, I do take things seriously, and I feel like I get put into a box a lot of times that I don't deserve to be in, because I am being reflective, I am being aware of myself, and I'm constantly asking myself, was that required, right? In that moment. And I don't know. Sometimes maybe it wasn't. Maybe softness was required in that moment. And that's discernment in life of figuring out when it is and when it isn't. But I can tell you this much: softness can come along and you can afford it once you've made it to where whatever it is that you're trying to do has its own momentum,
Yeah.
right? But in the beginning, it's going to require a degree of aggressiveness to really push something and get it going. Once it starts moving itself, then the degree of energy that was required in the beginning, you can dial back. You don't need that anymore. It's not necessary. But to think that you're gonna move that ball without it, that's crazy. But people
As you're
get them confused.
as you're explaining this, and you and I are aligned on this because you do a good job of helping me because again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, is um I will get very intense and I'm not controlling it well and it's like scorch earth, let's say wide beam. But as you're talking about intensity and you're talking about energy and you're using those words for me to for the audience, the for those I will take an illustration or a metaphor really helps me when I'm communicating with people, my mind is drawing pictures or creating images to where I can store what they're saying to that image and then remind it's a way that I can remember it well. And everything you were just describing and all of that description, I had the vision of and the image of a laser in my head. And as I looked it up, the energy, the intensity can as listeners are hearing this, that sounds like um masculine, big, rah-rah, almost, what's the word people use? Not rambunctious, but, um, maybe it is rambunctious, but almost like loud and, uh, chaotic
Mm.
almost. And to for me and what I'm currently working on is I'm thinking of like a laser has a large amount of energy. Like
But
a
it's controlled.
And that's why the laser made sense to me. Also, this is getting into a little bit of the science, but I think there's some juice here. The laser has heat. It's one of the trade-offs is you have electrical, chemical, and light energy, pointed, and we're saying in a specific area, so it's controlled, it's under control, like it's in a controlled beam.
Environment.
But also it has a trade-off, which is it does create heat, right? And I think that's where a lot of this is I think people can misunderstand a type A or people that are talking about intensity because the as you get momentum, you can begin to invest in or you can apply some insulation around, say, the onset of the laser so that the heat's not affecting anyone in a negative way. But in the beginning, if you don't know what type of insulation you need or you're not really or you're so focused on getting this laser beam going, um, there's going to be some thermal energy and people nee hopefully people can understand that, but I think that's where I think a lot of people get thrown off is where they're like, we're talking about an intense laser, of a very controlled, calculated, under control intensity, not a wildfire of lava just spilling all over. Again, r- coming back to like scorching earth people, If you have a lot of tenacity or energy around something, you can, if it's not controlled, start to scorch earth. And when I say scorch earth, I'm mostly meaning relationships. Like you can just anybody can get it.
Yeah.
You know, this person can get it, that person can get it. Well, that person doesn't need that. They actually need a version of you because because they're on another level than these other people. They don't need that. They and that is where discernment comes in. And but but again, I think if for the listeners, and I think for myself, I'm gonna take away from this, but is we're wanting that laser energy where it's a ton of energy, but it's not just spread everywhere. And I think that's what I've got confused on is where I'm like, well, I need to get intense. Well, then means I need to raise my frequency, but that's okay, but when you can raise your frequency and control it, that's a better outcome.
That's the goal. Yes. So 100%, you got it. It's got to be controlled. That's the key, right? You got to have control. You got to have the parameters, and that's where people get confused, or they struggle with the dichotomy of life, with balancing. Which I think, to me, like, it's funny that it's called a universe, and then when you go to college, it's called a university, right? And so this is just my opinion. The universe, right, or reality here is a school on teaching us how to balance the dichotomy of life, right? So with what we were just talking about, right? So a large part of that, and it throws people off that are, say, very feminine. That's extreme large masculine energy that we were just talking about. But that would be masculine energy that's out of balance,
Yeah.
right? And then what's going to help bring it back to center is its counterweight, feminine energy, right? So you gotta marry that with the love, with the grace, with the gratitude, and that's what stops it from burning up or scorching earth everybody, right? That's what keeps it balanced. So learning to develop the lens in which you view reality through, to where it's not just a masculine lens or not just a feminine lens. They're both there, and you're seeing
Yeah.
through both of them simultaneously at the same time, which changes the view completely and gives you the highest probability of getting a balanced on target result, right?
Yeah.
But it's not knowing that that is the filter in which you should be looking through, or the lens that oftentimes leads us, in my opinion, to results that are overly one way or overly the other. Because typically that's what you see. You either see the polar opposites, right? A very masculine, very high energy, very scorched earth. Everybody can get it. You want this, and then, or very loving. Oh, it's okay. Overly patient. Just it's gonna be okay, right? Both of those work to some degree, right? So, and this is gonna bring me into a main point that I want to make. Both of them work to some degree, right? But they don't work at the highest degree of which they can. And what I mean by that is, what, like, I've always said this, like, because say with the roofing company with sales. Sales, in my opinion, and Scott calls it stacking bricks, but it's all about stacking as many bricks or doing as many things as you can that's going to increase the percentage or the probability of you closing that deal, right? Winning that business. So if you're just in intense masculine energy, then you have left a lot of bricks off the table, or com- like completely decrease the percentage or the chances of actually hitting the target or achieving the goal. By how much? By a lot, right? Because you're missing the whole other counterweight, the feminine piece, right? That's not there to give you the remaining 50%. So maybe you hit 40% to 50% of the time, but you could be hitting 90 to 95 to 100% of the time, right? So, the segue into a main point that I want to make is another trap that we've, including myself, have all fallen into is because I do it some of the time, that means I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I do it some of the time, that means I do it all of the time. Right? We all lie to ourselves and tell, I am just as guilty of this as everybody else is. But it's an easy trap to fall in, and we will make ourselves think because, well, I always check my emails. I always do this. But do you?
Yeah.
Do you always? Or most of the time?
Yeah. Or often.
Or often?
Because that's where we slip, as we mentioned earlier, is where you you have to be aware of your state, you have to be aware of where you're at, because when you do catch yourself, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I want everyone to hear, that it's okay that you slipped. It's okay to fall down. But we've agreed that we can't stay there.
Yeah.
And we can't just say everything's okay, because some things are not okay. Some things, ignoring some things, that's where we have to really get back to center. That's where that reflection comes in. And we have to say, hey, this is the standard. I'm looking at the standard, and then I'm looking at my behavior and the standard are misaligned. And again, in a this is a journey, and that's also okay. But what we can't do, and where the intensity has to get elevated on the individual level, is where Carter or Derek as individuals, or insert name in an organization or in a home or wherever, we have to get we have to settle in. We have to get in a calm, that's why I think with reflection, it's, you want to get in a meditative state or a very grateful state. But when we get to that section of our reflection and we say behavior and standard are misaligned, okay, insert Jocko Good, but what's going to change? And I think that's a powerful question that's really helpful for me. I hope the listeners can take something from that. I ask myself, because I'm in such a calm state, what's going to change? Am I going to change the standard, or am I going to change the behavior? And if I'm building a team and I have made commitments, then I don't, at least for me, the standard's not changing. That means the behavior's got to change. And that's where we can have that balance. That feminine energy is present. That masculine energy is present. They're in obedience. They're in respect of each other. And they're saying, well, in order to change that behavior, I'm going to need some intensity. And then it's like, well, for us to even identify the correct behavior to change, I got to have gratitude, love, and I got to be calm. And at least for me, in my recent reflections, that's where I've seen a lot of juice and a lot of rapid results, better results, feeling better about myself even, is when I've been able to do that, is where I've been able to say, "Hey, it's okay." And again, self-talk. I'm using this tone intentionally in this interaction, because that's how I'm talking to myself. In times past, I've been screaming at myself, and it's like, where how do I think I'm gonna solve the problem when I'm yelling and screaming with my self-talk? And I've that's something I'm most proud of, is the growth I've had in the last, 12 to 16 months, is how I speak to myself, and really rapidly in the last 60 to 90 days of getting more consistent with having self-talk in a calm and grateful state versus a super intense and unhealthy out of balanced masculine state. And so there are times in my daily reflections where I do juice up. I get masculine for certain things, but I do think self-talk, how you talk to yourself is gonna spill out to how you talk to others, and then it's going to show in your behavior. Your self-talk is evident, and the only people that don't know that are people who are not focused on self-talk, and they're not calling it a thing, and so they're just oblivious to it. But then the ones that do put value to self-talk, they know how you talk to yourself based off of how you openly speak and communicate to the world. So there's no hiding because, unless on this journey, there's no hiding. Because if you're gonna do this, the people around you are going to also be working on their self-talk, and they're gonna be able to identify your, the way in which you speak to yourself by how you speak to them.
Yes, wholeheartedly, and that's a fantastic point that you bring up is your self-talk. And it's funny, we were taught or society makes fun of those who talk to themselves. It's interesting. The thing that will help bring the change about and help you get to where you wanna be and help you learn to love yourself is the very thing that they teach you or tell you not to do, that you shouldn't talk to yourself. And maybe we're saying we shouldn't talk to ourselves out loud. I talk to myself out loud all the time, right? A lot of times it actually helps program things because words can program emotions within the mind and the body. And then sometimes it's even more powerful when you say it out loud. So we're here to tell you it's okay to talk to yourself and that you should evaluate how well you talk to yourself. And then to segue into that part, how well you talk to yourself, I wrote down over here lying to yourself is not loving yourself.
Mm,
Lying to yourself is not loving yourself.
that's
And
a
that
big one.
that goes back to what we were just talking about a second ago, where because I do it sometimes, that means I do it all the time. But that's not true. So lying to myself is not loving myself. So I have got to make sure that I am changing that language and that if I speak in absolutes, I start catching it in real time and I start adjusting and changing because those words do matter. It does matter if you say all the time. It matters more than you think. And so we have to make that shift and then we can start catching when we don't. So we can start moving towards where it is the rule and not the exception. But to say that we're doing something all of the time, no. It's I like to think of myself as a pretty consistent person, but I still miss stuff regularly, like pretty consistent. Like I'm consistent in being consistent at missing stuff. So it does happen, but for the most part with my routine, with how I'm going to show up every day, like you can count on getting a pretty consistent version of me every day. And if you got a problem or something that's gonna it's gonna be a tough day or whatever, and you need to know that the person next to you is not gonna fold or is going to bring the juice because they need to, and you can count that I'm gonna bring that juice, right? And that I have that switch, and then I have that ability to do that. But that has been a journey to get there, right? But like in my day to day, I still miss stuff. There's still things where I didn't get to it, but where I catch it is through the reflection. I catch that I missed that. I catch that, hey, today you fell short. And then most people stop there. I don't stop there. It's why did I fall short? Right? And then what did I do differently today to cause myself to fall short? Okay, what can I have done to prevent that? What was in my control, right? Was it something that was out of my control? Was it an exception? And then if it was, I still don't take that as an excuse. Okay, well, what could I have done to increase the percentage of it not happening? Maybe it still happened, but what is in my control? That's all I can focus on is what's in my control and then hold myself accountable to that. Right? That's it. And so as long as we're consistently doing that piece through our reflection, we're going to get to where we're going. We are going to become the person that we say that we want to be. So let's segue this into with the reflection piece. What are we reflecting on? So what are some of the things that we should be reflecting on? What are some of the things that we should be doing, the habits that, cuz we got to break bad habits and we got to start new good habits, right? In order to create the person that we want to be, right? So you got to practice that person, practice being that person. If you want to show up on game day and have a good game, then you got to practice, right? So, what are the drills? What are the habits? What are the rituals? What are the things that we should be doing every day to get us one step closer to becoming the person that we say we want to be?
I think the starting point is inventory. Again, I go back to the list, but I think for everyone, this is where I'm not very rigid as far as in my thinking or in my philosophy on this. I think it's all predicated on what you're trying to do. And but you you have to be able to put your finger on the behaviors or the things that are going to get you closer to the goal or that are gonna move you further away from the goal. So, but no matter what you're trying to do, there's some baselines from just being a human that you have to put some attention towards, which is going to be your energy, the state that you're operating in, and then your health. Those are some basic ones that no matter what you're trying to do, if you're developing yourself and you're putting attention towards the mindset that you're going to attack the day with, or that you're going to present on a daily basis, and then your physical health, which plays a role in the other 2 that I just mentioned, those are 3 things that I think you take health is such a broad topic that I know we're going to expand a lot on, but it's really hard to show up your full self if you're tired. It's really hard to show up and bring the juice if you either haven't eaten or you ate something that was super unhealthy and it's got you feeling almost like food hungover. It's very hard to show up your complete self if you're hungover from alcohol or some sort of drug or some sort of foreign substance that's not designed for the body. So to bring it down really basic, um, you for me, you have to take inventory so that you can then make create behavior or choose a behavior to either offset, add a counterweight, or at least communicate to the people or to yourself that this is gonna be a tough day because I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. That changes everything. If you are not aware that you only had 4 hours of sleep, and then you're stumbling through the day unaware, like, you're not gonna be as sharp as you are when you have 8 hours. If you eat if you eat a large breakfast and really splurged for breakfast, and that's not something you normally do, and then you're really, really, really tired at 10 AM, well, it's probably not the workload's fault, and it's probably not that you're just having a bad day. It's most likely because you you overloaded on carbs at 7 o'clock. You normally don't do that, and now your body's reacting to it. If you ate something different than what you would normally, if you do any behavior that you wouldn't normally do, then it's not a bad day. You can if you take inventory and you put focus towards a few things, you're gonna be able to put your finger on to then you can identify what changed, which created this change, and then you're able to choose a different input. So, what are some of the things that you focus on daily to ensure that you're showing up your best self, or that you're bringing the juice, whatever the day requires, you're in an optimal state for that.
Well, the number one is my morning routine. That's what sets the tone for the rest of the day, right? So that's like, to me, that's, if I had to say something's most important, I would say it's first thing I do when I wake up. So as soon as I wake up, I chug water. Why do I chug water? Well, water is it doesn't like people say drink water to hydrate. Well, water doesn't really hydrate you. We all know what hydrates you. Electrolytes do. Well, there's unless you're drinking water with electrolytes in it, water's not hydrating you. Well, then why do we need water? We need water to flush acid, right? Because just like we were talking about with the feminine and masculine and balance and all of this, your body also has its own balance and it's called your pH balance. So each organ, your blood, all of it has its own pH balance and it is alkaline over acid. So when you're sleeping, your body is going through a healing process and it's flushing things out, right? So it's produced acid that needs to be flushed out. It's ready to be removed from the body. So step number 1, I'll promise you if you do it, you have a big jug of water right there. If you could at least just down a bottle of water, bare minimum, but if you could down more than that in one go or down it, get some breaths in, and then chug another bottle, right? Right when you wake up, I'm telling you, it is a game changer. It starts your day off amazingly because you're flushing. Because what makes us tired, what makes us not feel good, a lot of it, a large part of it, and we don't even realize it is the inflammation and the acid in our body, right? So the water helps flush that out. So water is paramount, gets the system going, it gets your organs woke up, they're processing the water. So bam, chug the water, and then I immediately start breathing. Most people want to grab their phone. Don't do it. Don't grab your phone. And if you did it this morning, well, just like don't do it tomorrow morning. Or if you do it tomorrow morning, give yourself grace, figure out why did you do it, and then get prepared for the next morning to wake up. Where's my water? Chug my water. And now I'm going to go right into my morning meditation, right? Number one, fill yourself up with air. Breathe. We gotta breathe. And then one thing I would tell everybody to focus on is breathing through your nose as much as you possibly can throughout the day. And they always make fun of, oh, you're a mouth breather, blah blah blah. Don't be a mouth breather, be a nose breather. So when you wake up in the morning, take big breaths, fill yourself up with oxygen, and then settle into and you don't have to sit up. You can sit up, you can stay laying down, you can get into a meditative, like, posture, you could stand up, you could do Tai Chi, whatever you wanna do, but I take about 10 to 15 minutes of just doing big breaths, breathing, and then focusing on, "What do I got to do today? Who do I like? How do I like?" And then seeing my day going well. But before I do that, the first 5 minutes are just getting woke up, getting in that good, peaceful, alert state. And then once I feel like I'm there, then I start running through my day and I start feeling and seeing it going well and how I want it to go and how I want it to feel, right? And then once I've got that down and I feel good and I've seen my day is done, then I'll get up and I'll start moving. I highly recommend looking into Tai Chi or Qigong or whatever. It just teaches it gets the body moving. It's very good for your health. And it teaches you and your body, it teaches you how to flow energy through your body and to be aware of it. Like everybody, like when you say that, people are like, oh, Eastern mysticism or blah, blah, blah. And they think they just don't know what they're talking about, which is fine. But I would implore people when I'm saying these things, don't put me in a box because I assure you I don't fit in that box. What I'm saying is everything is energy, right? We do know for a fact that this table right here is not actually solid. This glass is not actually solid. This computer's not actually solid, right? It's all vibrating, right? So everything is moving and it's going wonk, 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 wonk. We just can't, it's going at such a fast rate, we can't even notice it, right? And it all has its own vibrational frequency, its own. So this one's the harder, the denser it is, the lower, the denser the frequency in which it's vibrating, right? And then if everything's vibrating, then that means there's energy in the air. It's making it all move, right? And so it would make sense that you then therefore would have energy in your body because what makes something move? Energy. What makes a car move? Right? Combustion, right? So it's being able to be aware of that energy within you. That's it. That's all we're talking about. And then learning to flow it, learning to like, because think about it. I'm going to prove to you what I'm saying is real. Take your awareness right now and put it on your left foot. Just put it on your left foot. Now feel your foot, right? You're aware of your left foot right now. Feel your foot. Feel all of the sensations, right? And then it's your awareness that's going to move the energy. Now, move your awareness up your leg slowly, right? All the way up your leg, all the way up your leg, all the way up your leg, all the way to your spine, right? Guess what? You're flowing energy. Your awareness
Yeah.
is moving the energy through your body, right? And so Tai Chi helps you open up those pathways and learn how to do it. And you're exercising the muscle of flowing energy. Why would you want to flow energy? Well, if everything's energy, and energy can also get stagnant and stuck because that's what happens in a swamp, right? A swamp attracts mosquitoes and alligators and things of that nature because it's stagnant. It's not moving, it's not flowing. There's no waves, there's no tides, right? It's just stagnant water, right? So your energy can be stagnant as well. And if it becomes stagnant, you attract unwanted things. Let's put it that way. Like it's not a good thing, right? So we know stagnant is not good. So if you don't want stagnant energy in your body, stuck in your body, you've got to learn to keep moving it, flowing it. You got to learn to move. So that's why they say you should be active, you should walk, you should exercise, because that's what you're doing. You're just not intentionally moving energy. So if you pair the two together, that you're aware of the energy and you're moving and you're exercising, now you're increasing your outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And so getting up and moving your energy, doing the exercises, because when you're doing them, you're slow, not methodical, and you're feeling the energy move through your hands. And then when you're coming down, you feel it on the palm of your hand, and you can feel energy when you put your hands like this, and you can feel the pulsation of the energy in between your palms, right? And then if you go to the beach and you dig your feet into the sand, you can feel energy flow through your left leg and out through your right leg, right? You can flow it. You can, with your consciousness and your awareness, you can flow energy through your body. So it's just teaching you how to do that, right? And it's teaching you how to keep the circuits moving to where you don't become stagnant. Because if your inner energy field becomes stagnant, your life's going to probably become what? Stagnant,
Yeah.
right? So like that's a big part of it. And that's why if you study Eastern medicine, they don't just take herbs and stuff, they also focus on the energy. That's why they have acupuncture. So I'd implore people to go study that, to go learn about it, right? Um, and and a lot of it you'll see when you go down this journey is proven in different individual fields separate of each other. They don't like bring it all together for you. So you kind of have to go on that road yourself. If you're expecting somebody or something to connect all the dots for you, you're sadly mistaken. We're gonna try our best, but there's a lot of dots to be connected. And so as we go, maybe 10 years from now, with the way AI is going and the programming, and maybe we can get something that's very robust that has all that for you. And I'm hoping that'd be amazing. That's a world that I would like to live in. But right now we don't have that. So we've got to develop that skill set for ourselves. But to get back on target, we need to move and get energy flowing through us. We need to breathe, fill ourselves up with water or oxygen, and then once we're done with that, start getting ready, take a shower, whatever, or go work out. Right? I don't. It depends. Everybody's different of what their time frame that they have in the morning. But if you could get a morning workout in, like I would get the energy moving and then go get a workout in, that's gonna be the best, and then go do a cold plunge, hot shower, hot tub, any of that stuff that you can do, awesome. If you can't, it not the end of the world, it's okay. And then even if you just got a 5-minute workout in, that's better than no workout, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think one thing to comment on there is just to make sure that we pause for a second to because this is important to me that this lands, is one of the most important, at least try this shirt on. If you don't like it, take it off, give it to someone else. But the juice in what Carter's been explaining is the morning routine can look like or can consist of whatever you put in there. The juice of what he's saying is that for him, he has a morning routine. So the key is if your morning routine is nothing like what he just explained and it's your version, the key is that he's taking control of how he starts his day and he's choosing to start his day a certain way. And so I think from a mindset standpoint, that is what's most important. If it's for you something very different, totally fine. That's where you're at, and but the thing is to have or to have not. If you're just waking up, and Carter, help me here if I need it, but if you're just waking up, grabbing the phone, reacting out the gate, you didn't choose your morning. You chose to not have a morning routine and to not have any control of how you start your day. So when you show up to an organization to contribute or you wake your children up to get ready for school, but you've already just woke up and you didn't set a standard for how you are going to go towards the day, then you're in reactive mode, which and then you're teaching children to react, and then you're coming to an organization to just most likely just react, and then you're going to bed, and all you've done all day is react to to the environment around you. Which again, there's some of that people will mishear me and say, "Well, you have to react. We're all just reacting to each other." I don't. That's not true. What Carter just mentioned with their morning routine is he's choosing how his mornings are gonna go, and obviously, if there was an exception where you weren't afforded that opportunity and you were traveling or you're not in, something to that nature, well, you're just gonna do you're gonna do the best you can with what you have. But I think if I miss there, correct me for because 'cause I'm sharing with the audience, but I think the most important thing is let's not get too wrapped around the axle or let's not get too, focused on the specifics of the morning routine, and let me just go a layer deeper. Let's not get too judgmental on each other's morning routines, and let's just all acknowledge, if we would like, that a morning routine of some sort is better than just waking up and reacting.
Yeah, agreed. And to take what you're saying, and to add on to it, because you were saying choose, right? You're choosing to do it or not. And to be very clear about what we're choosing, because I don't think we see it through this lens. So I want to give us a filter or a lens to try on, which is we're choosing distraction,
Mm,
right? So
yes.
it's that dichotomy there is you're either choosing distraction or you're choosing focus, right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
and
well
then
done.
and then what did we just say? Focus does what? Focus moves energy
Mhm.
because it's your awareness, being aware and focusing on your foot. And if you ride it up your leg, you can flow energy up your leg, right? So, okay, I'm connecting dots here. So whether these connect for people, this is a very profound dot that I'm connecting for you. So I hope it lands. But so I'm saying that focus moves energy, right? Okay. And for something to be created, right? For something to manifest, for something to come about, for a result to happen, what is required?
Energy.
Energy. Energy is required. So let's think about what I'm saying here. I'm saying focus is what moves energy, and energy is what creates results. Okay. So let's think about society. And who I'm not going to get into the they. I'm going to mention they several times in the future. Maybe one day we can get into a they, go down that rabbit hole, but I really don't think it's important. And let me tell you why, because there's clearly a they, because through observation, you can see a trend, patterns, right? So, like, can't dispute the pattern. And there's a pattern of distraction. There's a pattern of distraction. What do I mean by that? Well, would we agree that our society appears to be based or built on distraction? It's everywhere, Derek.
Yeah, it's all
Is it not? And so, what you just said, when you woke up, you either chose this, which is what?
a distraction.
Distraction. Because I'm putting energy towards this, but is this moving anything? Is this creating anything? It's not, right? So, why would somebody or something, or why would there be a they that would want to steal my focus, that would want to distract it and put it on something that's meaningless or put it towards maybe the future they want to see?
Yeah. I was thinking of the word attract. Like, why would they put so much effort into attracting your focus?
Precisely.
Because
Because
that's what they're doing, because if we have this convenient device and it's easily accessible and we have to charge it and that charger goes conveniently right beside the bed,
yep.
but then if we jump on it first thing, it's let's think of it another word. Why would they create a tool so effective at attracting our focus? Was because if I attract your focus, then what do I have of your focus?
Well, you have my energy,
Right, but I have control.
and energy does what?
Energy it
It
creates results.
creates results, right? So if they know that, right? They know that. They know energy creates results, right? And then if you could just create a device, huh, that controlled what people thought and what they focused on, huh, you could somewhat predict the future or have a higher probability of bringing about a reality that you want to see.
Makes sense.
Interesting, because it's interesting because like they tell you the truth in plain sight. They call it a tell lie vision.
Yeah.
They're telling a lie in the form of a vision, right? And it's a tell lie vision program, right? And so I'm just saying, if they understand how powerful your focus is, right? They're showing you that they do because they want it distracted and then they want it focusing on the reality of which they want to see, right? Because whether we're aware of it or not, we are all co creating this reality through our awareness,
Correct.
right? Because you have the double split test or whatever where they set the particles through the split and then the result changed, and if there was an observer it would split it. If it wasn't, it wouldn't split, or it was random. I can't remember the exact details. I haven't looked it up in a while. Go check it out yourself. But essentially, the conclusion of the famous test is that our awareness, what's the word I'm looking for? It can affect reality. Your awareness affects reality. It affects particles all the way down to a particle, right? Whether you're putting focus or awareness towards something can change reality, right?
Mhm.
So if they understand that, because they're showing that they understand it by doing what they're doing, right? Now, these are powerful tools. So we could just take the tools back and we could all just use them to project realities that we want to see, not that they want to see.
Correct.
I don't think any of us want to see the reality whoever they is trying to project. But I'm and I didn't say all this to get us off into conspiracies or to derail us. I'm just saying this so we can understand how powerful our focus is and what's actually going on, and that even the they realize that and we see it because reality is built to distract us. And as long as you're distracted, then you've lost your power.
Correct.
Your power is your focus, right? So, What helps you be really good at focus? Meditation. So that's why I'm constantly, you gotta meditate, gotta meditate.
Well, you gotta go within.
Going, taking your focus
'Cause
within and
okay,
controlling the energy, controlling the body, controlling the mind, and the better you can do that, and then what helps you do that, what helps increase the frequency or your vibration in which you're dwelling in is what you're putting in it. You are what you eat, you are what you drink. So if you're eating bull crap and you're eating toxins and you're constantly nuking your stomach, well then yeah, you're probably not going to be able to get in that calm, alert state, in that meditative state. You're not gonna get there. It's gonna be very difficult to get there.
you're just adding more difficulty.
Correct.
Like, you can because there's probably a listener, and I'm with you, that I still eat whatever I want, and I still meditate well, and I hear you, but you you made it more difficult to get
For
there.
no
It's
reason.
not to say that like, because all of us are so similar, yet we're all very different as well, and there's that could sound like a confusing statement, but, like, it's not to say that something's not possible, because the power of the human will is very, very powerful. There's tons of studies that talk about the strength that a mother has when her child's in danger, and, we see it in bears and all the animals, everything. Like, human will is very, very powerful. So, please don't, throw shots, throw them if you want to, but I would encourage you to think about what's actually being said in the construct of, you can still meditate and eat a cheeseburger. You're allowed to. It's not that you have to just eat green beans and rice and be the most healthy person. That's not what's being said. A lot of people I've found are, and I'm about to shock the world here, are meditating. They're just afraid to call it meditation. Wait, I'll say that again. A lot of people in the world are meditating, they're just afraid to call it meditation. Y you're you will unpack we'll do a whole episode on meditation, but the point that I think is being made here is that all of these things, what we're talking about and the narrative that's very important to me, and really what this whole channel and what this episode and channel is about, is putting the power and giving people keys to their own power.
Yep.
It's like, hey, whatever you want your morning routine to be, r- rock on. I just encourage you to not just wake up and get distracted. Like, choose something besides letting someone else choose for you.
Correct.
If you'll try that. Now, if you can't handle that for whatever reason, or you feel alone, or you feel like, we can go into that, but, like, if you don't mind, please make up your mind for yourself before just feeling like distraction is the only option.
Yep. Step into your creator energy, right? Step into your creator role. We are all meant to create. We are all meant to build. And whether we're going to be able to build and create something that we can all be proud of and that we all want to be a part of is predicated on the quality of the energy that we're dwelling in, right? And then how well we are able to channel our focus,
Mm.
right? And then also think about what I just said. I just said channel. I said channel our focus. And then what do they call television? They call it television channel. They're channels. Interesting. They say television channel, right? So it's channeling focus or a vision or a view. So we need to take back the power and start channeling our own vision, um, our own movie, and be the director, be the star of our own movie. And all we're saying is that take your power back, right? Because what how, we see society does two things. It it creates distraction, right? And then it also tries to teach us that, because they have the pursuit of happiness, right? That our happiness comes from where? Outside of us,
Mhm.
right? That's another lie. It's not true, right? Happiness does not come, because who decides if you're happy? You.
Source.
You.
Yeah.
You decide, right? So you can be happy every day, right? It doesn't have to come from outside of you, right? But things outside of you aren't going to fulfill you. The only thing that can fulfill you is you, your own inner talk, your own systems and processes, your own viewpoint, and you taking the time and putting the energy and channeling the focus back here, right? And then once you learn to be selfish, you can learn to be selfless,
Mm.
right? You have to be selfish first so you can become selfless. Because if you can't help yourself, how are you going to help anybody else? You can't. It's not going to happen. It's not a thing.
A lot of people are stuck there.
Yeah.
A lot of people are stuck there. We know that we don't align, or um we know that we're not in support of, like, abundant greed, where it's just like this. It's just, we know we don't agree with that, but then also we are not selfish enough on, like, the basics to where we're healthy. And so, a lot of us are in this vicious cycle of, we call ourselves giving, and we call ourselves being, serving, but we're not. We're essentially doing an empty. It's about like I'm pouring from this water bottle. There's nothing in there, because we never take the time to go, just the moment to go fill it back up. And then you can share, but you got to take that moment to go fill it back up. And just to to illustrate what the word selfish is like, it's you need to be responsible with how you define that word. The selfishness is in, like, I know if it's Carter's morning routine, I'm probably not gonna get him to answer the call. But he'll call me right back once once you started your day. Um, and there are things that I do that it's those boundaries where that's the selfish that we're talking about. It's not, you operate in a selfish state every hour that you're awake. It's like, hey, let's set some boundaries, let's communicate some boundaries so that I can be selfish, to build and to choose and to get myself, to have to put back what got poured out. And then once the bottle is full again, or has enough in there for the day, then hey, I'm back to serving, and you can actually serve. um, you actually can serve people instead of just distracting yourself by serving others, because that is something that I'm guilty of. I've done it. Um, I've watched people, very important people to me, throughout my life, do it as well. Um, it's it's also another one of those, um, fallacies of, if we just call it serving, that's what it is. If we just call it a word, that's what it is. And so, um, that's the power. That's really the power of the reflection, is where you can actually take inventory of, ask the question. Because if you are truly serving, then you have no issue answering the question. Because then you can go, am I serving? If the answer is yes, then you can go, how am I serving? Then you can speak to it. Then you can go, what am I serving? You'll be able to answer. And then you can go, why am I serving? And you'll have an answer. And then you'll go through the whole dialogue, and you'll have answers, and you won't ever have to stop, because you'll always have an answer. But if you can't answer one of those blocks, that's when we sit and we pause and we take a moment and we unpack that, because that's where the juice is. That's where we really, if you can't define who you're serving, why you're serving, how, the who, you say it all the time, the who, what, when, where, and why. If you cannot do that, it's okay, but that's where the juice is. Take, like, put value to that. Don't just and if you're distracted, you can't ever do that. If you're too distracted and you're just you're distracted and you're reacting to distractions, you you have a harder time getting to that place, which is where I really enjoy. And that is where I look forward to getting to those moments where I can answer those questions. And again, for me, I'm a little old school on I like to write. So I will write out my tree. I've actually with AI, I've gotten to where I'll talk it out and I've given it prompts to question me on the who, what, when, where, and why as it helps me become more efficient at my reflection. And um that was a lot there, but I wanted to simplify it for the audience to make sure they didn't misinterpret the word selfish because that's and I hope I did a good job of is that what you meant by when you gotta be selfish first before you can be selfless?
Yeah, that was a good bit of it, and then the other piece of being selfish is, uh, having proper, systems and processes with how you're going about it, having a systematic approach of being selfish, as far as making sure that, you know, you do have that reflection point. You are checking in on, where you're at with it and having because the other piece, the systematic approach to it is putting boundaries in place, enforcing boundaries, because those are key and making sure, like you said, you do have, the juice there, to put into somebody's cup. But then once you start going and pouring the juice, there is a high degree of responsibility that comes with that, and discernment is required. And then you must become a good steward of that energy.
Mm,
So once you've cultivated, because that's what we're talking about here, we're teaching and talking about the process of cultivating energy, right? So what you eat, what you think, how you feel, how you move the energy, how regularly you do it, and then who you're surrounding yourself by, where you live, where you're at, all of that goes into your quality of energy, right? Because your quality of your energy dictates the quality of what you're creating, the results that you're getting. So, um, with all of that, when you have this high potent energy, right? You've got to be a good steward of it. And so having a systematic approach to how you're deploying that energy, how you're sharing that energy, how you're serving others, and making sure that you're not being self-serving, right? Because when you're trying to serve, you want to obviously you need to balance out the dichotomy of things. And because what you're gonna find is a lot of everything that everybody's struggling with is they just don't have a systematic approach to dealing with the dichotomy of life, right? They don't have a filter, they don't have a process, they don't have a system, lenses in which they are like. So in this situation, we're talking about selfish versus selfless, right? So you got to balance the two. They're both required, right? So then you need to have a systematic approach to how you're going to do that. And then as you're cultivating that energy and you want to share it because what goes out comes back, right? So you want to be able to be reciprocal with your energy, but not everybody should get your energy. There's people that are going to be energy vampires. There's going to be people that want to siphon your energy, but they're not going to give back, right? And you must be responsible with that. You must make sure that they are also doing their part. And you have to make sure that you're not helping people because you want to feel validated. You want to feel special. You like, because a lot of times leaders will set things up to where everybody needs them,
mhm.
right? They're not empowering people. Well, that is self serving. Because in my opinion, if you're a great leader, then you are coaching, developing, and helping people to get to the point to where they don't need you.
Yeah.
And if that's you doing a great job, but a lot of times people don't move that way because their own self worth
Is
isn't
de
where it should be because they're focusing on everything outside of them and they're
mm,
trying to get validation from others and validate that they are good or that they are special or whatever through people having yeah, see nobody can get anything done without me. Right?
yeah.
I have like if I leave it's all going to fall apart, right? Sure, but I don't think that should be what we're focusing on because now we're putting focus towards dependency, right? And we want everybody to learn to be interdependent or independent of each other, right? To where everybody can hold down their own lanes. And then if we can all do that together, the sky's the limit, right? And so the best way to help people is to help them help themselves.
100%. Yeah.
And so with all that, it's just the selfless and the selfish. It's just learning to balance out the dichotomy of the two, just like with the feminine and masculine, the good and the bad, the higher self, the lower self, right? All of those things. So just getting your processes down for how you're going to keep those in balance, having that lens, knowing that that's the goal, knowing that that's because that always helped me the most is just understanding why things happened and then understanding what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, right? And what the what the goal is. But just understanding why something's happening in itself helps take the sting of stuff away, helps take the like to where it feels like it's not I can't achieve it or I can't overcome it. Like, oh, okay, these are just counterweights and I just got to balance them out, right? And so, bam, that's the target. That's what I'm trying to do. So that's going to help me be able to overcome this, and then I can settle into just finding the solution and then focusing on how well did I do this time? How much closer did I get to the target? Okay. And then you just keep repeating these processes. What you're going to find, it's all repeatable. It's just another one of those, right? And then the further along you get into this, the less sting things have, right? The less you're in the energy of it. And it now you can really focus on what you're doing and really get good at channeling that energy. So I want to come back full circle because we didn't get past the morning routine. So we got the morning routine, we're channeling our energy, right? We're learning to flow it. We're in a good set mindset. We've worked out. We've got our energy. We're up. We're ready to go. We've envisioned our day, how we want it to go, and we're ready to attack, right? So now we're leaving out. We're going through the day, right? Well, the day is going to be a roller coaster, right? So it's not always going to work out. You're going to have a test date, right? You could like a bunch of curveballs gets sent your way, right? So it's being present in those moments, being able to, like, when those curveballs do come, reminding yourself to say, good, right? And then, how can I turn this negative into a positive? This is another opportunity just for me to see how far I've came and then get excited about it like it's game day, right? And then you're going to have days where your energy was low because you didn't make the good decisions the night before. You decided to go out drinking, or you didn't go to bed on time, or you ate a big meal before you went to bed, whatever. And you woke up feeling heavy and dense. And so you had a hard time getting through your morning routine, or you didn't even get through it. You didn't do it and you were running behind and you had to hurry up and scramble and get out of the bed and get to work or get to wherever you needed to go, right? So now you're already behind the 8 ball, you're not ahead. So and then those are great times because you still need to learn to be able to perform in those moments.
Mhm.
So we could be like, "Oh, it's gonna be a terrible day because I didn't get to go through my morning routine." Or we can be like, "Heck yeah, we're gonna see like how like what I'm actually made of," because you also need to be able to perform in that energy as well, because things aren't always going to work out the way that you want them to. And in order to get the results, you still need to be able to push through even in those moments, right?
Yeah.
So in those moments, you need what do you have that can help get you out of this, right? Well, supplements, you know, good clean food, water, breath work, meditation, going outside, getting some sun real quick. Like anytime you get something, you can always hit the pause button. I think people don't think they can. Think you can always pause or ask to come back or can I take 5, right? If you're not in the right energy, you don't feel like you like it feels like you're feeling the weight of the situation or the world on your shoulders in that moment and you're just like, pause. Pause. Don't make a decision. You're going to make it worse, right? There's always almost always or most of the time there is the ability to pause, right? And then go take that breath. Go walk around, right? Recenter yourself. And it's developing the skill of being able to go from off kilter back to center, right? Quickly. And the better you get at it, the easier things become. So it's focusing on developing that skill. And the goal is to just be as aware of yourself as you possibly can every second of the day, to where you're not running on autopilot. You weren't running a program, and you were very conscious, very aware, very present with your energy, right?
Yeah.
Because your energy is what dictates the results that you're getting. So if you're in bad energy, you're most likely going to bring about things that come from bad energy, bad results. They're not going to be good. So I think as a society, if we could start putting more stock on being conscious of our mental state and the energy that we're in, that's going to really change the outcomes that we're getting in life. And it's going to make a massive difference. And then pausing when we're not in the right energy, or going and doing whatever it takes to get us in the best energy we can of what we afforded ourselves because of our previous decisions in that moment, right? So, but it's understanding everything that we do is going towards giving us the highest probability to perform at any given moment, right? And that's how that should be the standard. That should be what we're working towards. And if we fall short, good. Why did we? What do we need to do different? What's the plan? And then you focus on the plan. And so getting really good at that, and then developing out your tool set of tools or things that you like. For me, I like to drink the mixed greens. Like, so if I'm feeling the weight of something and just thinking I'm feeling it can't get me out of it, or pausing and breathing real quick can't get me out of it, drinking some water doesn't get me out of it, and then I'll go chug some greens, or I'll go outside and sit down. Like, and I'll just go through, I'm gonna keep going until I get out of the energy, right? But most people aren't even doing that. They're not even
Mm.
trying or anything, or they'll try to run from it, or they'll try to go find a distraction or whatever.
Let me go find something easy to do so I feel better about myself. And then as soon as you're done with that thing that you were running from is, like, waiting, like, right there.
Yeah.
Like, so
And it
you
grew strengths.
yeah, it laughed at you while you were distracted doing the easy thing. That's something I've been very guilty of as skills have as the axe has sharpened, there's the variety or the count of things that I perceive as, um, less difficult has became more broad. So it's been increasingly more difficult to not run from the thing that I need to overcome and go do the easy thing and then feel like a rock star for 15 minutes. And then as soon as as soon as the rah-rah is over, like, I just crush that. It's like, again, to me, it's like the thing is right here. Like, as soon as I'm, like, looking around and it's like, it's almost scary, it's almost spooking me, like, "Hey, here I am," and I just wa and now you're more tired. Like, you're less than what you were an hour ago.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even gonna be able to address me today. You're gonna have to wait till tomorrow. And then let's hope that in the morning you don't distract yourself again.
Yeah.
Because that is a true, um, illustration of what occurs in my life on a day-to-day basis where the one thing, um, you know, is gonna be there. It's not going away. The battle that is before you, and it's not going anywhere until you overcome it.
Yeah.
And so you have 2 choices. You can either ignore it, which again is just you choosing to ignore it. When I say ignore it, doesn't mean it's going away. Or you can take your shot and try to overcome it. And I think taking the shot just makes more sense.
And then the key is getting really good at that, because what we just described is going to happen multiple times throughout your day, every single day. And it's once again another one of those.
Yes.
So if it's another one of those, it would make sense that we get good at it, right? And so the better we are at it, the easier things get, and then the more we can climb up to the like because it doesn't end, so you just get to graduate to the next level, right? So, like, it's just like with us with the business, like, we're like, "Oh, we broke the $10 million threshold, that's awesome," but then you go and talk to the guy that's at a $100 million business, and then you go talk to the guy that's got a $500 million business, then you go to talk to the guy that's got a $1 billion business, then you go talk to the guy that's got like, right? There's levels to it,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
very humbling when you meet the person that, does your annual top line revenue in net.
yeah,
Like, it's just mind-blowing. Like, anyone that's in business, like, when you meet the $10 million guy that he's saying what he's referencing is he did that in net profit.
yeah,
And then there's another person that did that say 10 million in net in a month, and you're like, "Whoa, this is a big, big world."
yep,
And, it's very
but it's humbling.
it's humbling and it's inspiring
Yep,
because everyone has to start somewhere, and then you get to even just hearing or seeing those people on a podcast or just hearing that it's possible. That's one thing I'll say is, uh, it's hurt me and it's helped me, and that's where discernment comes in. But I've had a thought that if another human being can do it, then
mhm,
that means that it's possible,
yep,
which means I can do it. Now, that requires some okay, if you just heard that and it just evoked an emotion in you to be really excited about doing something, I'm asking you and encouraging you to pause for the cause. Make sure you're ready for what's coming because you don't know what you don't know. And that's not me saying to pause for a long time. I'm just encouraging people because I want to be a very good steward of what the words coming out of my mouth. That is true. Another human can do it, which means it's possible, which means you probably can too. However, the reason I'm asking you to pause is I'm saying pause, do extensive research, ask a few people you trust questions because don't just go in guns blazing and assume that it's easy. If you can go in with a knowing that it's going to be difficult and nothing's going to stop you and you're just going to continue to just get better every day and you're going to remain a student, then you're ready. If you think it's going to be easy, I encourage you to unpack that and set that down that there's not a lot of things in life that are very easy. Um, but as long as you're good with the challenge and as long as you're not lying to yourself that this is about to be easy and you think it's going to be a bloodbath, then I think you're ready to start.
yeah, and you shouldn't, like, over scare yourself either, like, you gotta once again, the dichotomy, you gotta be somewhere in the middle and try to like, see where your extremes are and then inch and work your way into where's the center, and then that's what you're gonna aim for, the bullseye, right? Aim small, miss small. Um, and I love all that, and that's good advice for people and a big thing to, be conscious of. Um, one thing I do to circle back, because I think this is a big thing or a big piece, is the avoidant energy, the not wanting to confront things, and getting good at confrontation, right? So then there's that word, right? Like, oh, confrontation, right? Man, people do not like confrontation. We run away from it. We avoid it. Well, I would implore you to change how you look at that because whether you're going to graduate to the next level and the next level is predicated on how well you do confrontation, right? And then there's degrees to this. You graduate to the next level of conversation, to the next level, right? And you need to be able to do it well, right? You want to be good at it, but it is something that you have to master and you have to run towards on this growth journey. You have got to get good at it, and you have to recognize in yourself. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do have avoidant tendencies or um, they an avoidant attachment style to where when things come up, their nervous system goes into fight or flight. It triggers them, and their self defense mechanism is to run, avoid it, not address it. It'll go away, whatever. And because they learned at a young age that that's how you survive, right? And it worked for survival. But if you're trying to go on the growth journey, well, then you're moving out of survival mode and you're trying to move into thriving mode, right? And if you want to thrive, you can't run from stuff. So you have to develop the skill and the ability to run towards it, sit in it, and then work through it, right?
I like to say run with it.
Run, yeah, there you go.
Like,
Run with it, own it, right? Take its power away, right? And own it. And then if you get really good at that process, things have less and less power over you, right? And then you're not afraid to have tough conversations. You're because if you can learn, because step one is to confront yourself, right? So if you're good at having tough conversations with yourself,
mhm.
then you can eventually start having tough conversations with others, right? And then it takes the sting away from it. So if you are able to go through the dark night of the soul, right? Then it makes those tough conversations and tough situations with others that much easier, right? It doesn't mean that it's easy. It just lessens the control it has over you and over that situation to where you're able to see clearly and move the way that you wanted to move and get the outcome that you were looking for.
Your fear's reduced.
100%.
Like, that's been the thing. It's like you got a wall of fear, and then when it's gone, you can walk freely. Like, and it's you can use all kind of analogies, but for the more to summarize, the harder when you can have hard conversations with yourself, you get reps, you build confidence, and then it's easy to have or the fear is not easy. The fear is now reduced, lowered, less. So then you're less friction around having hard conversations with others, people outside of yourself, because there's just the thing that was stopping you before, the same thing that's stopping you with having the hard conversations with yourself is the fear.
Yep.
And then that's where the avoidant, the running, what are you running? What do you mean, Carter? You're running from yourself? Yeah, you're running from the fear around that
It's
it was
also a
present.
very real nervous system response that's happening, right? Your nervous system is firing off, and so you are decreasing its intensity every time you do it. Every time you run towards it, every time you work through it, it loses its power. It's no longer as intense as it once was, right? So the intensity every time you do it gets knocked down a little, a little, a little, a little, and a little. Or little by little, it gets knocked down. So and that's I want that to be a focus. I want that to be something that we are running towards, not from an understanding that in order to get to where we're trying to go, that is something that we have to gain mastery over. And then realize if you are that attachment style. But then you have the opposite. You have the anxious, right? Who wants to they are running to everything, right? And they just they want to make everything better. I got to solve it and but they're doing that from a anxious energy and they don't have boundaries and they don't have respect for themselves to a degree in those situations, and then they can also get taken advantage of and then find themselves in a vicious cycle as well. And the moral of the story here is don't run from the problem, run to it. And then when you get there, you have to try to calm down, control the energy, and work through it. So you don't want to be in a fearful, like nervous energy, and you don't want to be in an anxious anxiety energy either. You want to try to work through both of those and then run the problem solving method, identify the problem, identify the root cause, and then work through it and then transmute those energies that you're feeling into positive energies. And one thing that helps significantly is if you can remember gratitude in that moment
Mhm.
and then start running through and feeling things that you're grateful for, and it'll help take the sting away. And then now you're developing that skill, right? But it's remembering to do it, wanting to do it, and having the courage to run to it, not from it. So that's just something that I'm glad we touched on in the beginning, because that is a very, very big deal and a very important skill that I don't think enough people talk about. Um, and especially if you want to be a leader, you have to be very good at that because that's pretty much all you do every day. You just have tough conversations with people. And if you're scared of that or you don't like having them, it's not going to go well for you. And you're probably not going to make it. And then, because step one is just running towards them, but just because you run towards it doesn't mean anything. Now you got to execute. Now you have to be able to get through that emotion. You got to be able to not escalate or, make things worse. You need to be able to actually work through the energy, work through the problem, and get to a solution that's balanced and makes sense. So
And that's gonna stick.
that's going to
Like,
stick. Yeah.
it's a very complex, running to it's step 1, and then when you get just because you run to it, when you get there doesn't mean you know what to do. And I think as when you start, you just have confidence that, episode 1 is not gonna look like episode 100, or attempt 1 is not gonna look like 100. But if you think you can wait your way to attempt 100, that's not the way the game's played. So you're not gonna be able to wait your way through. No one's coming to save you, or no one's going to do rep 100 through 99 for you. So so sure, it would be nice to know what to do when you get there, but confronting the problem is is required. And then when you confront 25, 30 problems, now you're gonna start to get some momentum around what do I do once I get there? And so, but again, um, it's just like with hitting on recapping the morning routine, acknowledging that a morning routine makes sense is step 1. And then polishing, adjusting, changing, tracking the morning routine, and then coming, day 100, you're you're going to look like someone who's had a morning routine their whole life, because why? You've got 100 reps at it. Start tomorrow and just start small, start simple, start somewhere.
Yep.
But having all of that focused intensity, and then that calm gratitude, like, be proud of yourself for a moment that you're even open to trying to make improvement.
Yep.
I think that's important. Like, the fact you don't know what to do, and that's okay. Someone who's ahead of you on the journey, or at day 100, they're starting to get some momentum. Be proud of them. Also, let that inspire you, because that gives you confidence that it's possible, and that what it can look like. But then also take a short moment, because I'm guilty of this, of struggling to get my hands on gratitude because I feel like I haven't done enough. And there's a dichotomy there, because just starting, and then choosing consistently, um, improvement, like keeping the ego in check, not f that there's some healthy, parts of that comment as well, is all of it's true. Sure, um, you haven't done enough, if depending on how you're looking at it, sure, that's true. But then to say that you haven't done anything, that's not healthy. To say, "Hey, we're not there yet," valid. to say, "Hey, to beat yourself up over things just because you missed today, don't discount all the other days of all the momentum that you've put effort into and you've exuded energy and you've invested energy into. Um, that's why the pause is so important. For me at least, is to be able to take a moment to look to acknowledge all of it and to acknowledge like, hey, this went really well. This was done could have done that a lot better. And then not being lazy with that or not discounting it, actually, like, saying that with a lot of passion, like, "I coulda done that a lot better, and here's how." And then creating a system or a process or a tool to then the next time that thing shows itself, I'm gonna run this play. And that's been, very helpful to me, but for the to encourage the audience, be proud for a moment that you're even acknowledging that there's a better way to do whatever it is you're doing, whether that be building a business or raising children or just being you. As simple as that sounds, you know, because that's kind of a big deal when we think of the concept of life, right? Like it could have not been us that got to be born. So when you when you think about it in that from that lens, when you're making an effort to improve yourself and then your impact at at this university or in this universe, um, there's a lot to be said about people who are trying to improve and who are making a conscious effort to begin exploring what their purpose is gonna be and what life means to them instead of being so distracted by what's around you that you just I call it bouncing off the walls. You're just reacting to everything. I'm very inspired and I'm encouraged by people that I see choosing their life, as opposed to letting someone else choose it for them.
Agreed. Agreed. So we are gonna get close to wrapping up. A couple things that I want to hit on real quick is the dichotomy of starting something and figuring out which one are you. Are you the perfectionist or are you the person that feels like if you wait too long, you're not going to do it? So you just got to go do it. Got to, we got to get it started. I got to throw energy towards it. Or, well, I don't have enough stuff yet. Well, it's not perfect yet. I got to keep, yeah, we need to get this in line. Which one are you, right? Because we have both extremes. So the other one at least gets stuff started, but then they constantly run into walls, right? Things are way more difficult than they probably needed to be. And then the other one doesn't get stuff going, right? Or they take too long to get it going and they miss the timing piece, right? So you got to bring the two together. And something that has helped me out significantly is the 75% rule. And so it's getting it 75% of the way or close enough to 75% and then sending it, right? And then trusting in myself, the people around me, and my skills and all of my reps to compensate for the remaining 25%. And once I really embodied that rule, it really made a big difference for me. So people won't start the growth journey because they haven't got all their supplements in yet, or they don't have their workout equipment yet, or they haven't their workout partner isn't going to go with them until 2 weeks from now. So I'll just wait till then. No, get enough of it and get started. Get the reps going. Start getting in the routine of it. And then once those things are in alignment, it'll be even easier at that point, right? And then so just don't be mindful of that trap and then figure out which one of those are you and then inch towards the center, right? If you're the one that just is going to get up and get because you'll get things going, but then it becomes very difficult because you didn't get the things in order, then you quit, right? And then you're like, "I'm gonna do something else," or "This isn't for me." No, if we woulda took a little time to prepare and have some preparation, it would've that you wouldn't have got these results. And then the other one of wait until everything's perfect. It's never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be perfect. So we do need to move. And that's the good thing between you and I is I'm the perfectionist. You're the come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we're able to balance each other out. That way we're moving things, we're getting a lot of stuff going off the ground, but we're also doing it in a organized, methodical manner to where we're able to get closer to that center together than if we were separate. So and then if you know that about yourself, find your person that is your counterweight, right? So those are very pivotal things. And then one more thing I want to hit on is extremely important that we haven't touched on yet for the beginning stages of where to start, what are the things that you need to focus on, and we were talking about the why and all of that. This is a big thing that Tony talks about is your story, the story that you tell yourself and the expectations that you because that's what we were just setting the proper expectations with yourself. And then what is the story that you are telling yourself about yourself, right? You got to change the story, change your life, right? So if you're telling a story of lack and and everything outside of me and none of the things that are in my control and all of this stuff, or, it's not in my genes, or I can't do it, or it's just that's just how it is with my family and all of this nonsense. You keep telling that story, then yeah, you're right. You care more about being right than you do the outcome that you're looking for,
Correct.
right? So we got to stop being self-fulfilling prophets. We need to change the story that we're telling ourselves. That goes back to that internal dialogue that we were talking about, right? And then what story are we putting energy towards? What story are we putting focus towards? Because whatever story we put focus towards, because we said energy is what moves things, energy is what creates things, right? Then that means that's the story that's going to actually take place, that's actually going to unfold, right? Is the one that you're putting energy towards. So if you keep putting energy towards the negative story and then you're wondering why your life is negative, there's the answer. It's right there. It's really that simple. Now, just because you start doing this tomorrow, does that mean your life's going to turn around? No, because you were going how long of reconfirming and watering this negative story? How long? However long it was, right? So then it would make sense that you would need to counter it with however long doing it in the opposite way, right? Of watering it with positive energy. And then the quality of that energy and the intensity of that energy dictates the quality of the result and how fast the result comes about. So if you want to speed the process up, then you better bring some intensity. You better be eating healthy, you better be drinking that water, you better be cultivating that mind, cultivating that body, cultivating that energy to where the energy that you're putting into it is high quality energy,
Yeah.
right? So I just want to bring all that full circle, put it all into perspective of what you need to focus on, what lens do you need when you're going through this journey, and then remember to give yourself some grace. Remember, it's not the destination, it's the journey, right? And if you failed today, good. Figure out where you went wrong and do better tomorrow, right? And then you just don't give up. Just keep going. Be relentless. Just you got to be relentless. You just got to keep plugging away at it and you're gonna and then when you look up, you're like, "Holy crap. Man, I came a long way."
Yeah.
Right? Because your head was down and you were just chopping wood, and then when you look up, you're like, "Dang, man, I've chopped down, a whole acre or whatever." You know what I'm saying? And just it was one chop at a time, one tree at a time, right? And that is the mindset, that is the way, and just be mindful of the story that you're telling yourself. Change the story, change your life, make it a good one, make it a positive one. You are the author of your story. You are the writer, you are the director, you are the actor, you are the star. Take back your power, take back your control. Be mindful of what you're focusing on. Remember, wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. Wherever your energy flows, results grow. So start feeding the things that you want to see. Take back your focus, make focus the focus, right? And let's not practice distraction. Let's practice focus. If you practice focus, you will be able to focus. If you practice distraction, guess what? You're going to get distraction.
You
So
won't even know you did it.
any things, any homework that we want to leave the audience with, Derek, or things to work on between now and the next time they see us?
I think creating your list would be what would be my homework assignment um for the audience. I think writing down your list wherever you're at, so no matter where someone's at on their journey, this episode could they can kind of could craft it in. But if as I'm the list, I do the list daily. If I forget to do it a day, I catch myself up. But the putting it on paper, there's something about writing it with a pen. And again, I've started to adapt to the convenience and the efficiency of AI to where it's keeping me more structured with consistent questions because I'll drift a little bit when it's all coming out of here. Um, but I think, taking inventory of where you're at today and maybe reflecting if reflecting is not something you're used to doing, um, just try the shirt on, just try. And then whatever comes out onto the paper, um, take inventory of it, analyze it, and then, I think doing that for the next 7 days, would I encourage you to do that. I'll be doing it with you because I do it every day, so you won't be alone with when you do it. Um, but again, writing one page is not that difficult. It can be as simple as a sticky note. If you're or you can set up candles and you can do it whatever works for you. But I think just taking inventory of where you're at and then where you want to go is a great homework assignment from me. Um, and obviously, if you could do choose something, if it's not that, choose something to do daily for the next 7 days. It's gonna get you closer to your goals. So I don't know, do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience for homework?
Yeah, so if you're not already doing it, let's start getting the habit down first. So if you're not exercising, let's add 5 minutes, 10 minutes, walking, whatever. Let's get our morning routine started, right? Let's plan that out and let's start trying every day to getting it knocked out. If we haven't started meditating, let's start meditating every night before we go to bed. Let's meditate ourselves to sleep, fill ourselves up with oxygen, and then the key there is just to you're allowed to have thoughts. People think you're not allowed to have thoughts when you're meditating. You're allowed to have thoughts. The difference and the key is you just don't interact with the thoughts. You don't go down the rabbit hole of the thought. You let the thought pass like a cloud. And then you just shift your focus back to your breath. Shift your focus back to your breath. Shift your focus back to your breath. And guess what? You're practicing focus, right? And you're being present within yourself, within your body. And so it's bringing you back into the present moment and just keep practicing that. Um, if you're not drinking water, let's increase our water. We need to try to drink a gallon a day. So wherever we're at now, let's increase it and let's keep working on consistently increasing where we're at. So the main thing is getting our routine down. If we're not practicing a good healthy diet, let's get that planned out. And then let's start getting in the habit of making sure that we are hitting a good, set, consistent bedtime, and then making sure that before we go to bed, we have our next day planned out,
Mm.
ready to roll. So the main thing I would say is let's start working on those routines, getting them put together, getting them established, and then just getting in the habit of doing them, and then start increasing the quality.
Yep. And one thing I'll tell you, a fear that I had for a long time, which is another homework assignment, is the world will move around you. So a fear I had is that I had to people please or I had to be a certain type or a certain version of me or I had to do a certain thing for those that I cared about around me because what are they going to think or are they going to be okay with it or is this going to be comfortable for them? But the the world will move around you and you are allowed to adjust and you are allowed to change, you are allowed to choose a different path or a different wake up time, bedtime, diet, all the things that Carter just mentioned. But I want you, if nothing else from this episode, that you take away, just take away this: that your environment, the world will let you adjust, and they will adjust to you. So therefore, pick you, and then let everyone else adjust accordingly.
Love it. Yep, exactly. Don't let them be your stumbling block. And just make sure that you are mindful of that. You're putting energy towards it and just never give up.
Yep,
Never give up.
just can't let go.
Well, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 2. We've absolutely enjoyed it. I hope we brought some golden nuggets. I hope we've helped put things in perspective, and I hope after this conversation we have a pretty good idea of what we need to focus on next and where the starting point's at. So any closing words?
Just if you don't mind, like and subscribe. If you're liking the value that we're sharing, um, let us know that. Like and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. If everyone takes things differently. So, but we would just appreciate a genuine like and subscribe.
That we'd be extremely grateful. Love you guys. Stay frosty. Have a great day. Carter and Derek out.